Are you guys all ready for this one? Oh, no, you're not. Spoiler, you're not.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy Memorial Day from me, Tekking101. Okay, I'm gonna take that off now. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I probably provided a full tank for your nightmare fuel for a little while there, but look, okay, it's Memorial Day today. I'm out, I'm shopping, I'm getting some stuff for later. I got some burger patties and some hot dogs. I'm gonna fire up the grill later. I bought a new American flag, put in our yard, and then I found these. I don't know I don't know how Walmart thinks people celebrate Memorial Day, but like this looks like a straight up purge mask. That's what I saw when I looked at the thing. Like you can imagine, like during a purge, you'd look out your window and you'd see like 13 people wearing these masks, like dancing in your yard, like and then they light your house on fire, so I'm just gonna set that over there for now. But yes, happy Memorial Day, everybody. It's the day of remembrance for all the fallen soldiers. So I thought starting off today's video would be only appropriate, aside from a freaky mask, to show you a little bit of a slideshow paying tribute to all of the fallen Marines that we have lost in the One Piece story. So take it away, somber music. I didn't include Virgo because while he was technically a vice admiral, he was also a traitorous dick, so I decided not to include him on that list there. Now, today's video is going to be about a Marine, and if you know anything about One Piece, you could probably figure out who's it going to be, or if you could read titles, you could also probably, if you could read the English language, you could probably figure out who it's going to be. But I considered this. I considered talking about, Jaguar D. Saul. I'm like, oh, he was a rather fascinating character. Bellamere, Nami and Nojiko's adoptive mother. She used to be a Marine. There's a whole story there. She's an interesting character, so I might still do videos about them. But I decided to do a video on a Marine that he isn't dead technically in the One Piece world, but he might as well be, because it's very unlikely the anime is ever going to use him again, but I really wish they would. And that is, of course, the best Vice Admiral right next to Garp, Vice Admiral Jonathan! Ah, yes, indubitably, and I dare say a man of such standing and fabulous facial hair deserves his own video. I mean, I know I already talked about Jonathan back in the first installment of Horroween when I did my top 13 best villains and antagonists of One Piece. Jonathan came in at number 13, so you guys know where it's at, but I think I need to talk about exactly why he's such a good character today, and he really is, and this mustache is now falling off, so I'm gonna put this over here as like a badge of honor to remember the mustache. But yeah, okay, so Vice Admiral Jonathan is an anime-only character. He was introduced during the G8 or the Navarone arc in the anime. It took place between Skypiea and Long Ring Longland after the Straw Hats fall out of the sky at Cloud's End. In the manga, they just kind of land in some random part of the sea and they just continue on to Long Ring Longland in the Davy Backfight arc, which we all know is the definitive best arc of One Piece. But no, in the anime, they took it a little bit of a different angle. This was back during the days where filler arcs were a lot more common in One Piece. Now, I feel like because One Piece is such a huge powerhouse of a franchise, they gotta keep the anime chugging along with like current stuff related to the manga. They might delve into a movie tie-in arc like the Silver Mine or the Z's Ambition, and they might even do filler arcs every now and then. Like the last one we got was the Marine base thing right before Totland, and then before that we had Breed right before Dressrosa. But those filler arcs do not last long. Maybe a few episodes, 3 or 4 maximum, before we get back to the current plot, because I think the anime realizes, to keep it moving, to keep, we have to stay concurrent to the manga as much as possible, even if we're kind of neck and neck a lot of times. And it's nothing like let's say Bleach that had like the Bount arc that lasted like 50 episodes. We're probably never going to get anything quite like that in One Piece, right? Up until the manga ends and they have to keep the anime going somehow, which all I have to say at that point is I hope they have really good writers, okay? But anyway, back in this day, the G8, the Navarone arc, it is one of the best filler arcs in all of One Piece. Actually, scratch that, it is the best filler arc in all of One Piece, and I am perfectly fine with staying. Wait, what are some other contenders? The Warship Island arc? Oh yeah, I'm gonna make a whole video about Fleet Commodore Nelson. Oh yeah, so it's just it just comes down to a lesson of, making sure you stay healthy, kids. You don't want to become morbidly obese. That's not very healthy. But, no, it's a great arc, and it's great for a few reasons, not the least of which being the hot cooked Jessica, who is the wife of Jonathan, who is the real reason why this arc is awesome. Okay, now listen. We've gotten some pretty good filler and movie-only villains and antagonists in One Piece. I'm not even saying we haven't. I'm not saying, like, Jonathan is the only good one in a sea of horrible filler villains. Now, if you go back, because I watched all the One Piece movies recently, if you keep going all the way back to the very beginning, the villains get a little bit more shallow and bland. Like, the villain in the first movie, El Drago, was just this hulking brute guy that had a fetish for gold. Now, really, he was just like, oh, gold, I just want to... He had gold on his fingernails. That's why he was like, I'm doing this just because this is my thing. That was his thing. He's like, oh, lovely gold. That was his character trait. Big hulking dude that can yell and shoot a ki blast and go Super Saiyan, and he had a fetish for gold, right? But as the movies continue, especially the most recent ones, like I love Gil Tesoro in film Gold. His backstory was really good. Zephyr in film Z, he was a great villain, which, by the way, did we not use Zephyr for that remembrance? Didn't Zephyr die at the end of film? Put him in there! He deserves it! Damn straight. But no, Jonathan is certainly one of the good ones on the same level of those characters, okay? So I put down 4 reasons why Jonathan is awesome, and we're gonna go through those right now. Okay, first reason Jonathan is awesome. He's not written like a typical filler villain. It's almost like, you know, whenever they sat down to come up with the G8 arc, and I'm sure Oda was involved a little bit in it, maybe they asked for his advice on character designs. He usually typically does that. He might give character designs to them and things like that. He does that for movies all the time. But you can tell, whenever they sat down for this filler, you know, they could have kept it simple. They could have just been like, yeah, the Straw Hats, they land in a naval base, and the head of the naval base is this giant, brutish marine dude, and he's super buff, and he has the power of this devil fruit, and at the end of the arc, Luffy beats the shit out of him, and they just sail away, and everything's good and copacetic, you know? I mean, that's just, it's a filler arc, because it's like, a lot of times, you have to get the idea, like, they don't even really try. Like, have you seen some of the Naruto filler arcs? Naruto has a crap ton of filler arcs, and you can tell with a lot of them, they were just pulling like the lever, just like, all right, let's just generic villain, Naruto beats the shit out of him at the end of the arc, Rasengan, call it a day. You know, they give a few better writing in some of them than others, but there's a lot that they were just phoning in, you could tell, right? They don't do that with Jonathan. Somebody at the meeting, some people actually sat down and were like, you know what? Let's do this a different way. Let's have the Straw Hats not just beat their way through the Marine base. Let's have them get separated from the Mary. Let's have them infiltrate the base and go undercover and learn what the Marine base is like. Let's have them talk to certain Marines, because that's something else. It's like not every single Marine is like this horrible individual, you know? So they go through, and like Chopper meets up with the doctor on the base, and she's pretty cool. Usopp meets with the shipwright that works on the base. I think his name was Mako, and he was pretty sweet. He actually foreshadowed some stuff later on with the Mary, with the Klabautermon, that we find out later from Frankie, so he was a really interesting character. You know, Sanji and Luffy end up in the mess hall, and that's actually one of my favorite episodes, when you see Sanji there, and Luffy's just eating all the food, but Sanji's trying to show the Marine cooks, you know, how to actually make a proper meal using every little scrap of the animal, like even the bones he uses, and then Jessica's the wicked hot chef, and then that's awesome, right? So, you know, you have that, but then, at the end of it, it doesn't all come down to a battle of strength. It doesn't come down to Luffy beating the crap out of the head of the Marine base and leaving. It's a tactical battle. Jonathan is not a frontline fighter kind of guy. He doesn't have a devil fruit. He doesn't seem physically strong. He seems like a rather laid-back dude that just sits around playing chess, and he fishes. He is Vice Admiral, and later on we find out all Vice Admirals have hockey, so I would assume observation hockey would be his thing. But yeah, he's not the frontline fighter kind of dude. You know, sort of like how high-ranking officials in the military are in real life. You know, does every single high-ranking official, like, are they always the first people to charge at the enemy? You know, because they're kind of important to keep around, right? And their job is to sit back and plan out the strategies of the battlefield. They might get involved, but, you know, a lot of times it's like, okay, trying to come up with a good plan to rout the enemy. That's where their expertise lies. And that's where it lies with Jonathan. Jonathan acts like a actual vice admiral, like a good, like, tactical kind of guy, like Suru, you know? Like, that's the kind of guy Jonathan is. Now, this leads into my second point. You might think that that might not be a good matchup for Luffy, because Luffy is not a tactical guy. He's certainly not going to engage Jonathan in a battle of wits, you know, and Jonathan and Luffy even come face to face at one point during the arc. But it's not like I'm going to punch you kind of thing. Honestly, if anything, Luffy's relationship with Jonathan, you know, Luffy's not the smartest bulb in the bulb drawer, you know, he's not the smartest bulb in the garden, whatever, but you know, he's like understanding that Jonathan, he's not out to just straight up like kill all of his crew or anything. He's not like an evil kind of marine. He's more interested in just being like, all right, Straw Hat Luffy, let's have a little game here. Let's see if you can get out of my marine base. I'll be coming at you, and I can capture you. And I think that even one point during the arc, he even says, you know, Luffy, Zoro, you guys are the only ones that have bounties. I have to take you in. I am a vice admiral of the marine. I have to do that. But the other crewmates, you know, at this point, Sanji, Usopp, Robin, well, no, Robin was, I don't think they knew that she was part of the crew yet, because that's what they sent Aokiji to go find out, that Robin was actually part of the Straw Hats crew. But all the other ones, yeah, they didn't have bounties. So Jonathan's like, Zoro and Luffy, I gotta bring you guys in. But beyond that, everybody else can kind of go. So he was a kind of chill marine, and I think Luffy saw that. It's like he's doing his duty, but he's not a bad guy, and Luffy was kind of like, all right, let's see if I can, if my luck is good and we can get out of here scot-free, let's see if we can do that. So that's where the real dichotomy works there, where Jonathan is coming up with these stratagems, and he's like, all right, I'm going to lay this all out, like the whole plan of draining the water out of the base at low tide, and so the Straw Hats ship was stranded. If it was literally any other situation, any other ship, they would have been screwed. They would have just done right there. They're done. You know, there's nothing they could do about it. The whole reason that they managed to succeed was because they just came from Skypiea, and they had all this technology that Jonathan was unaware of. Jonathan's plan wasn't a bad plan. It's just he didn't plan for like, oh yes, the Straw Hats also have magic seashells that can blast them into the air. And I didn't calculate for that one scenario that next time a ship just lands in the middle of Navarone, we'll know that they could fly, you know, like stuff like that. And kind of even at the end of the arc, when the Straw Hats managed to escape, he's kind of sitting there like, yes, well, and then the octopus balloon, and that's how they actually get away, and they're like, huh, okay, yeah, didn't see that coming, Straw Hat Luffy. Well, you win this round, my king is defeated, maybe next time. There's never gonna be a next time, but it was good. It's a good dichotomy, Luffy versus Jonathan, proving you can have good, you know, fights in One Piece that aren't purely physical, okay? You could do another arc like this, and I think a lot of the fans would be happy with it if Oda did an entire arc where, it doesn't have to be a long arc, but just like a little middle of a little, you know, between Wano and the next story arc or something, where they have to outfox a marine, you know, that would be pretty cool, right? It could be Smoker, I don't know, just throwing stuff out there, right? So, third reason why Jonathan is awesome, he's a likable enemy of the Straw Hats. He's not a villain, he's an antagonist, he's an enemy of the Straw Hats at that particular point, but he's likable. Okay, he's not like a typical cliche villain sitting in his office all day, kind of like Condoriano, who is also introduced in this arc, who I feel is getting much more praise for his memeability than Jonathan ever did. Jonathan has an epic mustache. What the hell does Condoriano got? It's like, he sits around, and he's just a chill guy, and it's his marine base and everything, and you can tell the Marines don't really end up doing much there. And when the Straw Hats invade, that's his moment. He sees it, not just to kind of outfox the Straw Hats and arrest them, that's certainly his primary goal, but Jonathan also sees this as a way to boost morale, to rally the Marines, because he knows the Marines in his base are slacking off. He knows that they're getting kind of just lackadaisical, because they're in the middle of, you know, this giant guarded Marine, you know, fortification. Like, no pirates ever come close to that thing. There's really nothing for them to do, but this is a moment for Jonathan to exercise his men. Like, Jonathan believes in his men, and he's like, you know what? I think this is something like an exercise that can really bring us together. And I'm sure, like, if we would have seen what happens afterwards, like the following day, after the Straw Hats escape, I could see Jonathan getting together all of his men, and they're all getting together in the courtyard or whatever at Navarone, and he goes out to address his men on what just happened with the Straw Hats escaping and all the stuff that happened. And he says to them, I'm sure a lot of the Marines are sitting there feeling dejected, like, man, we we joined the Marines to kind of defeat the pirates, and then we got shipped here, and we just thought like it was peaceful, there's nothing to do, and we got too chill, and then all of a sudden the fire got lit under our asses, and we failed, and the Straw Hats got away. And Jonathan, I could see him coming out and, you know, giving a speech of motivation, not yelling at his men like, "You guys suck! You guys suck! We didn't get the Straw Hats! Damn it!" You know, but no, he'd be coming out like, "Okay, listen up, everybody. I know that we've had a crazy couple of days, you know? But I just want to let you know I'm proud of every single Marine here. We tried our hardest, but the enemy was just, they proved, he might spin it like the Straw Hats were just too wily, too intelligent for us." But he's like, here's the thing, and just like, if you are feeling right now that you are dejected, that you are failures as Marines, don't worry, because there's always a second chance. We can always pick yourself up, and we can do this again. So, men, you know, salute, and everyone's like, "Yes, Vice Admiral Jonathan, sir!" And they go back to work, and they kind of get motivated to keep on doing their jobs and stuff. And then maybe the next time that a pirate ship gets near Navarone, they're going to be on this. So that's the thing about Jonathan. It's like he not only saw this as a potential to capture Luffy, he saw this as like, well, capture Luffy or not capture Luffy doesn't matter, because through this, I'm going to be able to motivate my men to be better Marines. That's the kind of guy Jonathan was, and it seems like something like an actual high-ranking official in the Marines would do. You know, looking at it from a bunch of different aspects, like, no, I could just treat this like a failure. I could just be a hot-blooded Marine, you know, and the Straw Hats got away, and just berate my men, and just, whatever, I don't care. You know, just, you guys suck. You know, but no, he treated this like a way to even come out as a success, even though they failed. So that's cool. Very likable kind of guy. Also, by the way, he did have a cameo later on during Marineford, and that was like one of the biggest blue ball moments ever, because he doesn't appear after that. You know how excited I was when I first saw those Marineford episodes? I think it was back in like 2010. I was like in high school at the time, and we saw all the Marines gathering there. We saw T-Bone there. We saw Smoker and Tashigi, and we see Jonathan rocking out, you know, next to Drake. Not this Drake, other Drake. I know they were both in the Marines at some point. Weird. Anyway, he's rocking out, and Jonathan's got his awesome coat and everything. He's got the medals and everything. Like, he's been, you know, because, you know, Kobe got one of those medals for saving a bunch of people at Rocky Port. You can imagine Jonathan got that giant coat because he was, like, master tactician, saved a lot of people in his day. I thought we were going to get, like, one solid, at least, episode during Marineford where we focus on Jonathan again. Like, how cool would that have been? Not in the frontline fights. That's not how Jonathan does things. Imagine him being up there next to Sengoku or Suru or whatever, helping out with the strategy, fighting against Whitebeard, how to rout the pirates and stuff out of the bay. You could have had him done stuff like that. You know what? You didn't even have to have him say anything. You could have just had Sengoku and Suru, like, planning a strategy, and you could have just had Jonathan there next to them, just, like, confirming that he's one of the best tacticians that they have, okay? But they didn't do that. They didn't even have that. You know, Oda, if you want to include Jonathan in the manga, just do it. You know, make your dreams come true, Oda. Just do it. Just have him there. Don't even have it, like, be a big deal. Just have him be in the background, just like, oh yeah, he's confirmed in the manga now. Like, yes, I would love that. So the fourth and final reason I came up with why Jonathan is awesome, there's probably much more than this, but I have to keep this video under regular length here. Jonathan is not written just like like, they could have done this like, oh, he's a lieutenant. He's just a random Marine lieutenant, no connections to anybody. He just commands a small Marine fleet or whatever. But no, they made him a vice admiral of all things. Like, that's a pretty high-ranking Marine. Just like, no, if the Straw Hats are going to go up against somebody, let's make it somebody worth it. Let's just make it a random Marine captain or whatever. Let's have one of the highest-ranking officials in the entire Marines. Let's have the Straw Hats go up against that guy. All right? And he also has connections to Akainu. That's the craziest thing. He studied under Akainu. He was kind of like his mentor. And that's a beautiful thing, because look how Akainu is, with his absolute justice, kind of like, we gotta defeat the pirates at every pirate's evil scum. We gotta eliminate them by any means necessary. That's Akainu. And Jonathan turned out like almost the exact opposite of that. So, just in terms of lore, just in terms of backstory, like, they did that of all things. It would be awesome for us to see what Jonathan's, like, his early days in the Marines were under Akainu. Now, listen, during the time Jonathan was introduced, we didn't know anything about Akainu. All right, we knew his name, in the manga. We knew his name, but we didn't know who he was. So they might have just picked Akainu as like a safety precaution back then. You know, I mean, I guess they also could have picked Kizaru because we didn't know Kizaru back then either. But they just picked him out of a hat. Just like, oh yeah, he studied under Admiral Akainu. We don't know who that is. Now, later on, we find out Akainu is like the exact opposite of Jonathan, so you might say that doesn't make much sense. But I think it does. I really think it does. I think, you know, maybe when Jonathan first joined the Marines, he looked to Akainu as like inspiration. Akainu was probably a few years older than him. And I think Akainu's in his 50s. Jonathan looks like he's in his 40s, so maybe like 10 years older than him or whatever. You know, let's say if Jonathan joined up when he was 18, Akainu was like, you know, 28 or whatever, and he's already on the path to being an admiral because he's wicked strong, and he's looking up to Akainu as like this symbol of justice. And after he starts training under him, he starts learning the kind of guy Akainu really becomes. And he's like, well, you know, I still respect him as a Marine. I respect him as my mentor for teaching me things. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to follow a different path than him. See, stuff like that is like kind of rife for like fan fiction, okay? And it just kind of opens the door to all this stuff. And like I said, I would love for him just to appear in the manga as a cameo or an actual character of merit. Like, there's another option for this, Oda. You have an opening. Because when we get to Raftel in that final battle, we're going to have the Marines there. We're going to have Warlords there, Yonko, everybody. If you want to include Jonathan in that mix, you know, in the background, like maybe just with Suru planning out strategies and moving, you know, ships around and stuff, you know, that would be pretty cool. I would like to see that. Also, his hot wife, that would be nice to see her again too, Jessica. But, you know, aside from that, you know, I want to see Jonathan again, all right? So yeah, that's my video today, paying respect to one of the more forgotten Marines in One Piece. I should also make a video on Zephyr, just a solid video on him, because he is pretty cool. You know, like the giant mechanical arm aside, his character itself is very interesting, his whole arc there. But yeah, I mean, if anything else, this whole thing with G8 and Jonathan is just like a perfect example that fillers can be good. They can be. I mean, they can be. Like, that's not saying they can't be. It's just like, a lot of times it's like, okay, you know, we're going to introduce some new characters into the story, and we're never going to mention them again. We're never going to go back here again. So they don't have to be memorable. They don't have to be characters that have a lot of backstory or anything. They could just be there for the sake of being defeated and then moving on. I know that's like the easy way to do it, and it's rather tempting. But, you know, if you put your minds to it, you can come up with something a little bit. It's okay to try stuff that's a little bit different out. You know, I mean, I'm not saying different in the sense of just have it completely wackadoodle. The character still needs to fit in One Piece. But it was okay to do something a little bit less goofy with Jonathan. He is goofy in a sense, you know, sometimes his reactions to things and everything, and just like when he was fishing and he accidentally fished out Zoro that one time, like, you know, there's some goofy stuff with him, but he's less goofy than some other One Piece antagonists we've gotten in the past. You know what I mean? But yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good Memorial Day celebration. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later, everybody.